We start, right? All right. Good afternoon, good evening, and hello everyone, excellencies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dima Al-Khatib. I'm the UNDP resident representative in the Republic of Moldova, and it's my great honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this online side event at the International Migration Review Forum on engaging the private sector for enhanced migrant socioeconomic integration or reintegration, I must say. Today's topic is extremely relevant given all the current global human mobility patterns and the recent, often unexpected developments resulting in cross-border movement, but also return migration, as was witnessed since the COVID-19 pandemic. And the importance of the private sector is acknowledged by the international development agendas and the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. And up to date, the rich and versatile engagement of the private sector has proven to play a vital role in strengthening the link between migration and sustainable development. With this event, we are also aiming to provide concrete examples of good practices that can be further scaled up and adapted and adopted at the level of the countries. In migration policy frameworks and discussions, the role of the private sector engagement in migration has evolved from being viewed solely as a source of funding to being acknowledged as an active player and as a partner, with multiple ways and means of contributing to improving the lives of migrants, including upon return and widening the range of choices available for them. Our agenda today includes 6 eminent guest speakers who will bring a complementary thematic, geographic, and stakeholder angle to the topic. Before we move to our agenda today, we'd like to bring to your attention just a few technical aspects. The event starts as planned and it will last for exactly 1 hour. The working language is in English. There will be Spanish and French translation. So you could select the preferred language at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We would also appreciate if you could turn off your microphone unless you are presenting or taking the floor. You will also have the chance to address questions in the Q&A sessions following shortly the interventions that will take place. So in anticipation of our panel discussion, allow me also to welcome and give the floor to my dear colleague, Luca Renda, who is the head of the Recovery, Solutions and Human Mobility at the UNDP Crisis Bureau for his opening remarks. So dear Luca, let me welcome you and pass the screen on to you.
Thank you, dear Dima, and very good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you. Greetings from New York. As you know, these days are very busy. We are in the midst of the International Migration Forum review, and it's the gathering, in-person gathering. It's the first time since COVID, the beginning of the pandemic, that we have such a large gathering of government officials and delegates from all sorts of entities gathered here in New York to discuss the progress towards the implementation of the Global Compact for Migration. And it is heartening to see such a high level of participation and engagement. And of course, during this week, we are organizing a series of side events to go a little bit deeper into some of the topics that are close to our work, to our mandate, but also to our heart. And this one in particular is very important, as we all will know that to implement the Global Compact, to really harness, the potential of migrants and to leverage that contribution to make a more prosperous, more resilient societies, we need to work in an approach that the Global Compact calls as whole of society, not just whole of government, but also whole of society. And in that particular context, the role of the private sector is highlighted, is considered as absolutely critical. The operationalization in what is called this multi-stakeholder approach needs the engagement of the private sector. its resources and capabilities to help, as I said, harness the migrants' contribution towards sustainable development. And this is very much in line with the Agenda 2030, the global goals. But it's also very much within the priorities that have been set by governments, both government of origin or governments of nation of transit and destination. The private sector and entities, such as companies or chambers of commerce or employer or employee association, or even regional economic commissions can promote this kind of engagement and can contribute to the social and economic integration or reintegration of migrants in multiple ways. For example, by integrating migrants as part of the workforce or advancing legal, policy, and operational protocols to do so, leveraging supply chains to employ migrants, or creating training opportunities, taking into account the needs of migrants and advocating for the social and economic benefits of migrants' integration and reintegration. This is also a topic that, as I said, is very close to our heart and to our mandate. We work extensively with different private sector actors in contexts that are prone to migration, building on complementary contribution towards the objective of the Global Compact, and in recent time also sustaining the socio-economic recovery from the COVID-19. Now it's clear that such engagement have to be tailored to different national, subnational, regional needs and realities, taking into account a variety of contexts marked by immigration, or return migration. We do have a broad interaction, as I said, and we do it in different ways, including in the countries that are represented today. For example, in Ecuador, we work with the private sector to promote employability, or what in Serbia, we support the Diaspora Business Council. These are simply two examples of the way we interact with private sector. So what we would like to do today is we have a stellar panel. I just want to really thank all the 6 panelists that are with us today. They are from different parts of the world, from Mexico to South Africa, Tunisia, US, the Philippines, so different countries, different time zones, especially grateful to Australia from the Philippines to be with us at late in the evening. We will hear different experiences, practices, lessons learned, and I think each panelist bring a different perspective and different expertise. So I hope this will be a fruitful discussion, an interesting discussion for all of the present, the people present, but also something that could help us inform our future work. Floor is back to you, Dima. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luca, for your insightful comments. And now, dear ladies and gentlemen, allow me to move directly to our panel discussion to better understand those existing engagements of and with the private sector actors for the integration of migrants, including the reintegration of returnees, and how it could be, as we said, expanded or scaled up. And there are so many good practices, as Luca was just saying, that we could learn from, that we could adapt and replicate, and we all look forward to hearing from them. Speaking myself from the Republic of Moldova, the country that I currently serve, it has been crucial to draw on the private sector early and the substantive contribution in the situation we have witnessed over the past months. And until recently, Moldova was mostly a country of emigration and return, with the private sector playing a crucial role in supporting returnees' intention to stay by helping them to find a job back home. But due to the recent events, Moldova has been experiencing a high influx of Ukrainians, becoming a transit and a host country almost overnight. And with this, the private sector has been able to significantly capitalize on its past engagement with the government and other actors in Moldova, and adapt engagement models to fit the needs of the current situation we face, despite the enormous challenges posed towards meeting the basic needs, but also identifying skill matching employment opportunity for Ukrainians. So this way, the private sector in Moldova has from the onset contributed to unprecedented mobilization of support by the national and the local government, and a broad range of other partners. So as an example, private sector has already made over 1,000 jobs available for Ukrainians, out of which 400 vacancies has been filled out to date. We will be hearing about this long tradition and situation adaptable engagement of the private sector in Moldova as one of the perspectives during this panel discussion, which we will start. And we are expecting from the 6 speakers, the eminent speakers that we have, that they will share with us a brief 3-minute presentation, and we will have also a question follow-up after each one of the presentations. And then after that, we will open the floor for discussion, open discussion. And for us to make the most use out of our time, we would like you to also post your questions in the chat as the presentations proceed. So you can use the chat box, or later during the open discussion, you can raise your hand and definitely intervene directly. So without further delay, let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Gary Sleiman. He is the counsel to Morgan Lewis and Bocuse. He's the member of the executive committee of the Business Advisory Group on Migration and Corporate Outreach Advisor to Talent Beyond Boundaries in the United States. He will share with us how the private sector can, through initiatives like the Talent Beyond Boundaries, empower migrants by providing them with job opportunities in host countries. So let me pass the floor to you, Mr. Sleiman, so we could hear your experience.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Dima. And thank you to UNDP for this opportunity. And let me also thank Dima and Luca for the recognition of the critical role that the private sector plays in these issues. As Dima said, I'm a member of the executive committee of the Business Advisory Group on Migration. That is the private sector voice to governments on migration issues globally, chaired by the International Organization of Employers. And for today, I will be speaking of my experience, and you see on the PowerPoint here some background on the organization Talent Beyond Boundaries, for whom I help with corporate outreach. Talent Beyond Boundaries pioneered efforts to identify talented candidates among those that have been displaced and are in precarious situations, and connect them to businesses facing skills gaps around the globe. Importantly, this effort uses global mobility and regular pathways to find durable solutions for these candidates and their families. In that regard, it fulfills the promise of Objective 5, which speaks to enhancing the availability and flexibility of pathways for regular migration. And the PowerPoint displayed here is evidence of the work that Talent Beyond Boundaries has been doing to achieve their goals here. But what does this tell us about socioeconomic integration? Well, TBB, Talent Beyond Boundaries, is a demand-driven project. As with all economic migration, the private sector is an essential player. What employers need from migration and the opportunities they deliver to workers and migrants is critical. But business is also a critical partner in integrating migrants, not just into the workforce, but also into their lives as newcomers. Businesses can be and are an incredibly effective agent for positive social integration. And the experience Talent Beyond Boundaries and our candidates have had confirms that. And we have seen businesses make serious efforts to ensure that the relocating of workers and their families and that they're welcomed into their new community. Everything from employers collecting the family from the airport, which I have wonderful photographs of, and arranging buddies to help them orient to the local area, to providing cash on arrival, transitional housing, assistance finding long-term accommodations, paying for English language classes, and assisting with finding schooling for children. We've done a survey of these candidates, and let me just give you an example. Of the 57 recent alumni surveyed by Talent Beyond Boundaries, between 6 months and 1 year after their arrival in their new country, 96% agreed or strongly agreed with the statement, "I feel welcome in my community." I think that's a testament to the successful integration and having the job, coming to the new place with a work opportunity and already being connected into the work community. And from that, being able to have the stability to grow into this new community that is, foreign to them. 85% said they feel their goals and hopes are achievable in their new country in this survey. So let me stop there. I know we only have a few minutes and I'll defer to the other speakers. We can pick up more on the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Gary. This is really very insightful and impressive, the work of the Talent Beyond Boundaries. Quick question as a follow-up, and I know that you touched on a survey and some results. For you and from your experience, what are the key conditions or success factors when engaging the private sector for the socioeconomic integration? I know that survey and you know, having a sense of the feedback is definitely one, but can you share with us more? Thank
Sure. You. So again, as I said, this is all built around having a job. And so the relationship with the candidate begins really through the interview process. Talent Beyond Boundaries, one of their functions is to really help the migrants prepare for the interview, be comfortable with, and the employer does those interviews directly. So the candidate gets to know the employer through the interviews, is made a job offer, doesn't begin working on the visa pathway, which will come with which will come citizenship until the job is acquired. And that's important because the governments are a critical partner in this partnership that we've built. Because once the employer has made the job offer and the candidate knows they have a place to go, you still have to get the visa pathway worked out. But there's a lot of interaction between the employer and the government and the candidate, all in anticipation of their arrival. And so I think that is a really important facet of why this the integration works so well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We might actually have kind of follow-up discussion bilaterally with you to learn more from the experience of TBB.
Well,
all right, thank you.
Can I just say one thing? You have an
yes,
expert you have an expert in Moldova on Talent Beyond Boundaries. Natalia, your prime minister, was very engaged in her prior job with Talent Beyond Boundaries. I got to know her well, so you're fortunate.
Yes, we are very fortunate to have her in her new capacity also. But thank you so much, Gary. All right, we do have a second speaker, Mrs. Estrella Maidaisen Ano Nuevo. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. She's the executive director of the Global Academy on Migration and Development and the chairperson of ATICA Overseas Workers and Communities Initiatives. And she's going to provide us an overview of how she has worked with different partners for the reintegration of migrant workers and specifically gender responsive reintegration. So let me pass the floor to you, Estrella.
Good day to everybody. I would like to ATICA, our NGO based in the Philippines, is a community-based non-government organization. And our experience is basically, it's a bottom-up approach. No? Because we started working at the local level in partnership with local government and with schools. Our NGO works on the issue of addressing the social cost of migration, especially on the children left behind, and also in gender responsive reintegration. Because in the Philippines, we have the feminization of migration, where majority of those going out of the country are women. So what we did was to partner, first is to develop a multi-stakeholder partnership. Because we know, for example, if when you are working on the issue of reintegration, this is a cross-cutting issues that engages national government agencies, local government, private sector. So what we did was to engage all of these different partners. And what is worth sharing is that through the years, because our NGO is already working on this thematic for 25 years, and we were able to institutionalize at the national, at the sub-national level, a committee on migration and development, where all of these players are working together to be able to provide various services from economic to social services. And of course, included in this partnership are also the private sector. How do we work with the private sector in this case? For example, concrete example is during this time of pandemic, the training of Atika is, we have training on financial literacy, we have training on entrepreneurship, we have various training also for local government. That is one thing good about the Philippines, because they allow NGOs to train government personnel. And there's a trust relationship between NGOs and the government and the private sector. And the private sector were tapped to also act as trainers and mentors to those returnees who were affected by the COVID-19. We tapped successful entrepreneurs to be able to mentor them, to be able to start their business. We also are in partnership with banks who are supporting our financial literacy program, and also cooperatives. We work with cooperatives in requesting them to also package investments, savings and investment package for migrants. So I think my time is up. So I'll give back the floor to you, Dima.
Thank you very much, Estrella. I'm sorry that we are pressed by time, but this is extremely interesting what you have just shared with us, including the institutionalization part. And I think this is extremely important and a lot to learn from. As a follow-up question, we're also interested, I mean, what is specific to interventions engaging the private sector for returnees compared to approaches for migrants integration? If you could share with us, like for 1 minute, your views on this.
When we are looking at the issue of reintegration, it is really most of the migrants, they are looking at opportunities, both employment and also for business opportunities, so that to enable them to come back home for good. And in all of these initiatives, both for employment and also for starting a business, they need partnership from the private sector. Because that's why in this initiative, we are tapping, for example, successful businessmen to provide them training and mentoring. Because oftentimes the migrants, they lack this, they lack training. They don't know whether they have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And we engage successful businesses so that they can become like a big brother, and do also exposure for agribusiness or different kinds of businesses before they finally decide whether this is something that is for them. It's good to have exchanges with the private sector. So those are some of the things where we tap the private sector. They are sometimes also tapped as suppliers of the businesses when this kind of arrangements work.
Thank you very much. Indeed, very interesting having mentors within the private sector. So the multifunctionality and multi-purpose of this partnership with the private sector is really something to highly appreciate and value. Thank you, Estrella. And next, I'd like to give the floor to our third speaker, Mr. Robinson Thathegje. He's the head of the subunit on migration at the city of Johannesburg in South Africa. And he's going also to share with us how his unit has worked on the socio-economic integration of migrants. The floor is yours, Robinson.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. Here in South Africa, it's afternoon. Those in other countries, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this important occasion. It's really appreciated. Here in Johannesburg, let me just start by saying we've got a policy on the integration of migrants. This policy is the one that assists us to facilitate integration of migrants and also to enable them to be part of the society, engaged in socio-economic realities which we find in the city. We know that the city draws a lot of migrants because of its economic opportunities, and we've seen a lot of migrants, both internally and cross-border, coming to the city. So we needed this kind of policy to enable us to engage with migrants. We also established a help desk throughout the regions of the city so that at least information can filter down to regions as well and not concentrated on one region. So, and then we found out that migrants basically are economically active. Most of them are entrepreneurs, they've got skills, they are artisans, and they actually contribute to the economic life of the city in one way or the other, whether they are paying taxes or not, whether they are documented or not, but at least some activity is happening within the city. So basically, amongst others, we've got a whole lot of programs that we do with migrants, and also the private sector, civil society, NGOs dealing with migrants, but specifically, we've got what we call the Johannesburg Migration Advisory Panel. And within the panel itself, there is this program on economic development. And this is where now we engage with a whole lot of private sectors, as whether it's formal or informal. A lot of them would be those that run what we call spaza shops, those that run vendors. Some of them, of course, have formal shops that they run. So we engage with them on a number of platforms through the economic development platform or program. But largely also we've got programs that assist migrants also to provide the city with their skills, the exchange of skills, what we call pay per service. We encourage migrants to be on our database of the city, and we appoint them basically to provide us with their skills. At the moment, we're concentrating on the language to break the barrier, the language barrier. So migrants are appointed to provide language courses in either French, Portuguese, some opt for English and Zulu. So those assist us in a way. But then we encounter a number of challenges. Amongst them will be those xenophobic tendencies, violence against migrants, but also there are opportunities where migrants can also make money, send money home, remittances, to provide for their families there. So that is basically what we are doing in the city of Johannesburg. And we've got a Department of Economic Development within the city. They have recently passed a policy on informal trading. This we see as a milestone, as it will assist us to engage informal traders, those that will need permits to assist them to meet our bylaws, to know where to set up and not to set up. So we've got that kind of arrangement. We have done a research with IOM recently on the socio-economic contributions of migrants, especially those in the informal settlement. And the outcome of the research showed that indeed migrants do contribute to the economic life of the country. They play a role in the economic activity of the country in one way or the other. So that research assisted us a lot, because then we were able to see whether migrants contribute positively or not, to allay fears of many South Africans that allege that migrants are just coming here to take over their jobs and their opportunities. On the contrary, we found that migrants actually contribute positively within the economy of the country. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is basically what we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Robinson. You actually answered my follow-up questions, because I was going to ask you, in what ways could the city of Joburg benefit from engaging with the private sector? And you just said with the research from IOM, it has proved to be. But can you indicate which sector have benefited the most so we could get a sense of that?
You mean within the migrant community?
Yeah. Which sectors in the for the city of Joburg they have been contributing the most? Is it the construction sector? Is it the education? Is it the health? Is there any specific contributions that you would like to highlight?
Okay, mostly they run their own businesses in the clothing and food industry. Others have got the construction, they've got the skills, in the construction industry. So those are the, the areas where migrants contribute a lot, because most of them cannot obtain formal employment within government. So largely they are self-employed, they start their own businesses. So a lot of them contribute in the clothing industry and the food industry, as well as the construction.
Thank you very much, Robinson. Thank you. We will now move to our next speaker, and allow me to welcome Jihan Zgouli. She is the marketing manager at Maghribiya Insurance in Tunisia, and she will tell us about the company, which has recruited 18 international students in Tunisia, which is an essential step to start reinforcing employability of migrants. So Jihan, we're more than happy to hear from you.
Thanks, Dima. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everybody. So Maghribiya is very glad to participate in this panel and to share our experience about integration of migrants. Let's first quickly present our sector in Tunisia. We are an insurance company, so that has been operating almost 50 years in Tunisia. We are part of large group, IFI group, employing 1,379 people in several sectors, tourism and especially in insurance. And we are thus contributed to the 15 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and accelerate here at the end of the pace of the progress toward to 230 agenda. And we have an ambition CCR strategy based in 4 pillars. So let's share now to the main points and share with you our experience with migration. So it starts with the university internship that welcome a few foreign people in some departments. And we are happy to notice their high commitment in their tasks and good motivation to learn new skills. This good experience encouraged Maghribiya to welcome more and more immigrants in our company. And now we are contracting 2 immigrants in permanent contract. Their experience, they push us to add and to improve our integration policies for the new employees and trainees, and they encourage to sponsor. And now we are sponsoring. We are sponsoring the three migrants people each year with the Arab Maghreb Development Finance Institute, and integrate them in Maghribiya after that. And especially in actuarial, we are faced with 2 issues. We have a high turnover of local skills and brain drain. So the immigrants recruitment are for us the best solution in this fight and to integrate. And we found many talents in this in actuarially, and that's why Maghribiya, with his effort, won the Afrogos Awards in work well-being, and recently selected the best company, the CCR company in insurance company. But during this experience, we have observed some difficulty in our company, especially language barriers, because like you know, many immigrants don't talk Arabic dialect especially Tunisian dialects. And they are not comfortable when some colleagues, don't speak Tunisian and Arabic, and they are shy to ask more questions. So we are observing some cultural difference and especially heavy administrative procedure for recruitment in immigrants. So Maghreb is now, to meet this challenge, is working by looking for partner to teach Tunisian dialect for these immigrants, for social integration, socio-economic integration. And recently, we are developing with IOM partnership to design, because we are in the beginning, so to design strategy and tools together to enhance our engagement for immigrants integration. We are open. And with our experience, we have learned that immigrants don't have access to health insurance. So we are now, our R&D is developing a special health insurance for migrants and the laborers. So that's all. So quickly, and I need to be quickly. So.
Thank you very much, Jihan. Thank you for this very insightful presentation. But I know that you highlighted some of the challenges and solutions, but we just want to a bit hear more from you for very quickly, what would be your suggestions for other companies who would want to incorporate the integration of migrants in their businesses and their CSR strategy? Do you have any specific suggestions for them moving forward from your lessons learned?
We work with the FTUSA, it's insurance federations, to share with the HR. We have HR communities with the FTUSA to encourage insurance, maybe especially insurance system that we have, to encourage them to offer opportunity and to employment and training for immigrants, to find with us with them language barriers and cultural difference, and to meet this challenge. And the first step, maybe with the insurance sector, is to encourage other insurance to recruit and to host these immigrants, and to improve employment and training for immigrants. Maybe.
Thank you very much, Jihan. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are definitely good suggestions, and I see already that there's a lot of chat questions going into the chat, so that shows also speaks to the interest of the audience to whatever the speakers have been delivering, but even more, and we will address them at the end. But let me now give the floor to our next speaker, Mr. Rodrigo Terán. He's the president of the Mexicali chapter of the National Chamber of the Restaurants and Seasoned Food Industry in Mexico. Canirac, which is the industry, is a member of the Integrate Mexico, a digital UNDP platform that coordinates the efforts of local actors and the private sector to promote and improve social and economic integration of people in human mobility context in Mexico. So, and also companies can post job vacancies through the platform and receive access to training. So Rodrigo, the floor is yours to share your experience.
Thank you very much, Dima, and thank you very much for the invitation to the UNDP. I'm really honored to be with these wonderful people today. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience. I know that food industry doesn't relate a lot to migrant topics, but you should be impressed how close we are to the migrants. For example, here in Mexicali, I'm part of Canirac and also to SEDEM, which is the Economic Development Commission in Mexicali. So this digital platform has opened us the eyes of the importance to integrate the private sector into these kind of problematics that are part of our daily lives here in Mexicali. This digital platform has different actors involved, local chambers of commerce, local community, local companies, and government. And I think these are the main actors that should be involved in any other country. If you can have these actors involved in any other country, the chances of getting a right policy of migrant will be really, really effective. If we can go to the next slide, I would like to talk a little bit about where is Mexicali, first of all. So Mexicali is in the border of California. That's why it's called Mexicali, because the border of Mexico and California. It's a really creative name of the city. And because of this pilot phase, we have had 227 migrants that has been pre-qualified to this like job web page in which the private sector can post their job openings, and they can have migrants come to our workforce. So here in Mexicali, what happens is that there is a lack of workforce, a really severe lack of workforce. So we have found that if we can have the migrants be involved into our community, and so they can feel welcome into our community, that is really change. It really changed our perspective of this problematic. There are inclusive fabrics that they have tried to regularize their IDs so they can start working as soon as possible. So we have seen that the private sector has the power to make this change, obviously with the help of other actors. But I'm sure that in this discussion panel we will found a lot of things that we share, and that we are sure that the private sector has the ability to really make the change with the migrants. I know I have a little bit of time. So that will be
Thank you. Yeah, is there more? You want to share more?
No, I want to respect my time frame.
Well, thank you for respecting. Everybody has been extremely respectful of the time, and we really appreciate it. But thank you, Rodrigo. And I know that you've put that first slide where you show, the different ingredients, if you will, in terms of actors. But would you have like specific suggestions for either local governments or UN agencies and NGO on how they can best engage with the private sector for an enhanced migrant socioeconomic integration? Just a few words of wisdom on that.
Yeah, I think one key factor is that local governments, NGOs, and agencies shouldn't look at the private sector as non-traditional actors like they usually refer to the private sector, but they should be considered as another important actor to solve the problems of the reintegration of migrants. I think that we should see the private sector as an important factor and an actual reason for human mobility, and a facilitator for an effective reintegration when involved correctly. I think there is still a big opportunity for future research in this area, but we must emphasize the importance that the private sector must be involved in any circumstance or problematic that may affect their communities. In my case, it was really eye-opening to be involved in this platform by UNDP, and I'm really thankful for it, because I'm more sensitive of the actual problems that migrants has, and they are only looking for better opportunities. So why is the private sector not involved if they can offer better opportunities for the migrants?
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for highlighting this extremely important message indeed. So with this, I would like to also, last but not least, give the final intervention to our colleague here from Moldova, Olga Sorugio, who is the CEO of the Orange Telecom. And the Telecommunication Corporation has been extremely active to support the reception and integration of Ukrainians in Moldova by providing tailored products and employment opportunities. And I know for a fact that, given that Moldova previously, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a country where there's also a lot of out-migration and return, I'm sure that Orange had a role to play in the overall integration. But let me give you the floor, Olga, so we could also hear your experience.
Thank you very much, Dima, and thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure for me to speak today. So Orange is part of the international group, telecommunication group, and it's a leader of telecommunication services in Moldova. So of course, we took the action very seriously in order to be able to help all the migrants and from Ukraine when the war started, because today I will actually speak about this. It was very recent, 24th of February, when we just woke up in a different reality and we said, okay, us as one of the main players in the private sector, we need to contribute the way that we can in order to offer meaningful help. So of course, the first help that we provided was connectivity services, because this is what we do. So more than 50,000 migrants received our services for free at the borders and are still receiving it every day in our shops. So it is the first step for them to be connected to all the important information, to be able to speak to their loved ones, but also to reach the authorities for information about how they can be accommodated better in Moldova, because, you know, we faced a huge wave of migrants in Moldova, so it was important to work with them in a very fast way. I must admit that I'm very proud that more than 20% of the employees of Orange Moldova have actively participated in this process and went to the placement centers, took people to their homes. So I must admit that, you know, it was a daily discussion among our staff that we need to really offer shelter to these people and to make their stay in Moldova as pleasant as possible, although, you know, the situation is very tragic. So this was a huge engagement from the employees and was facilitated by the employer, because we created a specific page where these efforts were coordinated with our staff members, with our CSR managers, and also through the Orange Foundation, because we have a foundation here for philanthropy actions. Of course, we gave the opportunity to our customers as well to reach all the Ukrainian migrants. So we offered services for free. We installed specific access free Wi-Fi points at borders, in the refugee centers, in the buses, in the rail stations. So in order for everybody to have access to communication. And not the last point would be the fact that we opened employment opportunities and we have customized our recruitment flows in order to be able to intake the migrants, even for a short period of time, for them to be able to have an income. The next step for us this summer will be to organize a summer camp for kids of the migrants and refugees. And in this way, we will contribute with their inclusion, you know, and because for children, it's very important for them to be active in the community and for us to facilitate the integration of the children. So in this way, we will be able to give them specific programs that will learn about the culture of Moldova, how they can be better socially integrated in Moldova. And this is one of our next projects for the Orange Foundation. Just at a glance, yeah, these were a few initiatives. We are happy to have, in terms of employment opportunities, we are happy to have 2 colleagues from Ukraine. It is not a huge number because for the moment, it just very recent when this terrible tragedy happened. Yes, you can see here the pictures, and in all of them are actually our staff, our employees, who are connected to migrants and to refugees, and who are able to provide support with our services, with the telecommunication services. So we are just at the start. We continue to do so on a daily basis, and we hope to be able to offer more support to the migrants and our friends and neighbors from Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olga. And the support of Orange has been extremely well felt at all levels, and we are collaborating on different fronts to be able to know more from the mobility data that you are providing us with. But can you shed the light also, I mean, how do you view also your company's role in supporting Ukrainians beyond the immediate arrival stage and this kind of emergency situation at this stage? And what motivates you as a company to support more longer term integration? How do you build on previous experience in employing foreign nationals? If you could shed the light for 1 minute on this, that would be also useful.
Indeed, for us, it's really important, first of all, to participate to community work, because as an active actor, even in the private sector, for us, it's also important to be ready to support the community. And we are talking about local community or foreign communities. They need to be integrated in order because ultimately these are our customers, and we care about the well-being of our employees, but also each of our customers. Also, there's potential of talent employment, because we have a very active information technology and communication industry that is growing year over year. And the current, let's say, employment opportunities for local people are always open. So we are always in recruitment phase. So we are very open to recruit foreigners from every part of the globe, specifically with the remote working opportunities. This is also something that is easier, and it was facilitated during the pandemic. So it's huge talent, and also the opportunity for a company to fill in the opening position, because sometimes we do have shortages in critical functions. And then, of course, it's also a very important message that we convey to our employees, the fact that we are not only revenue generating, which is a normal thing for a business, but also we try to support in the areas of social integration. The country, and as a foreign investor, it is a very important action that we need to convey here in Moldova, the fact that we are not only investing in the business, but investing in the country and the well-being of the community as well.
Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you, indeed. I want to really thank all the panelists for their overviews and their insights. This has been extremely, inspirational. But I do also want us to give the floor or look at the questions that are in the chat. I know that some of them have been responded to, and we are a bit over time. So maybe I could start with going through them 1 second. So if you could give me 1 second. All right. So there was a question, I think, addressed to all panelists. What is your views on states waging migration war, like forced migration? And then there was, can I list all the questions and then maybe we can have the panelists respond to them. So there's a question also addressed to Mr. Sulaiman. I think you have already answered it, Gary, right? And the chat on the TVB. How does TVB select candidates for interviews? Do individuals apply to TVB? Or if there's a process, perhaps with IOM? And I think the answer is already there, including an invitation to a side event on Friday. Thank you for that. And then we have from the National Institute of Statistics, Elvino. I would like to know if there are any studies located that provide statistics on returnees who have been reintegrated, and if there is evidence that they have never returned to the countries they emigrated to. And then we have another question, some of the good tips and tricks to encourage private sector to sign up to mentors to begin a returnee or migrant entrepreneurs. How can we ensure the sustainability and scalability of these mentorship? Okay, so for these questions, let us take them by batches. Any of the panelists would like to react on those 3 questions that I've just mentioned? Please jump in. Gary, I see your mic is open. Would you like to comment?
It's open because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to do it if a question came up. Well, I guess some of those I can't speak to because I don't, our program is not about returnees. typically. So I don't think I can answer those questions. So I'll defer to some other panelists.
Estrella, your mic is open. Would you like to answer to any of those questions?
Yeah, regarding the mentorship, what are some of the tips to encourage mentorship from the private sector? What we did was to appeal to the private sector because in the Philippines, the migrants contribute so much for our economy. And it is like giving back. Let us give back to the migrants. And one of the way of giving back is to mentor them so that they can become also successful entrepreneurs. And secondly, what we did was to, because we have this Committee on Migration and Development, where the government agencies, national and local government agencies are also our partners, we tapped the Department of Agriculture, Department of Trade and Industry, and the Department of Science and Technology, private sector partners who are able to provide best practices and willing to mentor. And on the part of the private sector, it's, although of course a lot of it is they are very much willing to share their good practice or their success story, in a way they also get something in return, because they gain suppliers, they gain customers through this kind of program. They gain a network also from the migrant communities.
Thank you very much, Estrella. Let me run through the additional questions. One of the colleagues is asking if some of you have experience in engaging the finance sector. Most of the difficulties for socioeconomic integration are related to the lack of access to finance, at least in LAC. So if yes, how was the experience? That's first one question. We have a French question. Dans les pays dont les économies sont à dominante rurale, le secteur privé doit s'adosser sur les initiatives des États et les dispositifs institutionnels pour aller vers les économies résilientes. Okay, that's more of a statement. Then there is a question, and we do agree with that. There's a question about whether there's any kind of international directory of good practices in terms of engaging the private sector or strategies to showcase the talent of the immigrants. Regarding TBB, what are your best practices to engage the private sector from your perception? Is there any difference between engaging companies in the developed countries comparing with engaging in developing countries? So that's a second question. And then asking about statistics that show the top 5 ranking by nationality in Joburg and Tunis. All right. Any reactions on those 3 questions before we move ahead to the others?
So since there was a direct question about TBB, and I think I did respond in the chat that in part that to date, the destination countries that Talent Beyond Boundaries has focused on have been developed countries. I don't think that's a question of resources and proving the model. Again, I recommend there, as you noted, Dima, there's going to be a side event on Friday, digging deeply into the plans, both what's going on, but there's a task force that's been developed with IOM. We'll have the Immigration Minister of Canada will be participating. I think for those that have questions about Talent Beyond Boundaries in particular, it's 1 o'clock on Friday. I recommend participating in that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Rodrigo, you had your hand up. You wanted to respond or react to any of the questions, please.
I wanted to respond to Joanna regarding the finance sector engaging. Usually what we do is because of this initiative needs funding. Usually what happens is that no matter how many good intentions the government has, if there's no funding, there will be no initiative. So what we usually do is go and talk with the private sector and let them know what are the true benefits for funding this project, and we made them partners of this initiative by, first of all, educating them to know that the migrants that are arriving to our city are really, really good people, that they can be really good workforce too. We have engineers that arrive and they cannot work because of they don't have an ID, just because of that, but they are great engineers. So if you have that power to communicate to the private sector that you have the power as a private sector to make that change, then you can then organize a round of funding to really promote the implementation of the project. So that's how we have worked with the financing aspect of our initiative.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I also see Estrella has her hands up. I know, I mean, we're just on time now with the 1 hour, but with your indulgence, we could go for an additional 5 minutes just to hear from Estrella, and then to do kind of a wrap up. Please go ahead, Estrella.
Regarding the finance, what we did was to partner with savings and credit cooperatives. So the migrants become member of the savings cooperative, and when they have a need for loan, they can also tap the cooperatives for loan program.
Thank you, Estrella. Robinson, you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you. Regarding the contribution of migrants, the statistics thereof, actually, though we do not have the actual numbers because they vary, it's just estimates, but we know that when it comes to Somalia and Ethiopia, they top the clothing and food industry. You go to Mozambique, you find that they are mostly are in the construction industry. Zimbabweans do overall, they are all over, whether it's construction as well as artisans, they do all those kind of jobs. But mostly would want the migrants to sort of serve as, exchange programs where they share their skills, because a lot of them are entrepreneurs. So we wanted them to share their skills with their local communities so that at least they can balance the equation. So that has been very helpful when it comes to alleviating unemployment in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robinson. Colleagues, I do see a lot of comments still in the chat. I'm afraid the time does not allow us to go through them all, but I could kindly ask the organizers, because some of them are targeted to the speakers, if we can collect those questions. I don't know where we can recirculate them again, but we will not be able to take all of them. However, there's a lot of takeaway lessons from our discussion today, and this has been extremely rich and constructive, and I was really honored to moderate it and to hear the different experiences. But let me share with you, some of those takeaways, and I'm sure that there's lots more that can be taken away from the chat. First, I mean, this discussion today has highlighted the importance of the multi-stakeholder approaches, showing the positive impact that can be created when private sector, government, civil society, and UN agencies effectively collaborate. These successful approaches require effective partnerships at different levels, including approaches at regional, national, and local levels, and we heard a lot of those experiences today. This is also crucial in order to adapt initiatives according to the context, which may vary within regions and countries. Businesses may face challenges when hiring migrants or offering products and services for migrants to support their integration, such as lack of residence permits or work visa, language barriers, and we heard from Maghribiya about that. So to operate effectively a flexible and transparent regulatory framework would be needed, among others. Other colleagues mentioned the mentoring aspects. And also parts of today's discussion showed the need for having gender responsive approaches to engaging private sector, and also I would say a response to different crises such as the refugee crisis that we are dealing with here in Moldova, and some highlights on that. And but thank you for highlighting clear, very concrete and context adaptable priorities that we can collectively follow up on and engage in. The work doesn't stop here, but it merely starts. So let me rather say it will expand and it will build upon fruitful grounds. So with this, I would like to really thank you for this discussion today. And I'm sorry for not being able to capture any additional thoughts that were put in the chat, but more to come. And UNDP stands ready to follow up with all the country offices and with the regional hubs in terms of supporting also technically the thinking and the further planning and the response and the collaboration and partnership with the private sector as a key partner and actor. So with this, I'd like to thank you and hopefully to our next discussion. And thank you for the organizers. I want to thank them individually, and for all the speakers. This has been an extremely insightful discussion. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.